Previously on Accelerate, we reviewed the all-new Tesla Model Y, including talking about phantom braking. But in today's episode, we continue the crossover trend with the all-new 2022 Volkswagen Taos. So here's what's happening, is that Volkswagen's no longer bringing the Golf to North America. That means no more Golfs. Yes, they're gonna have the GTI and the Golf R and maybe some variants, but the base Golf is just no longer coming to North America. That's just crazy to think about. No more Golf for Volkswagen in North America? Yeah, nuts. But here's why, because of our obsession with SUVs and crossovers. You see, Volkswagen sales are about 75% crossovers and SUVs. And that's just crazy to think about, but there's some more confusing things going on, and let me explain that. So to figure out where this Taos lands, we actually have to take a step back into history to see where this slots in. So let's go to this whiteboard here. So back in the day, the Tiguan and the Q3 were pretty much the exact same size, somewhere about extra small. And you want something a little bit bigger, and for reference, I'm putting Audi product in here, you had the Q5. And then a little bit bigger was the Touareg, and then on the large scale was the Q7. And fast forward a few years, the new generation stuff, the new generation Q3 was launched, and then the Tiguan was nowhere to be found. It actually got bumped in size to match almost like the Q5. And then as we moved, they got rid of the Touareg, and then the Q7, and then they launched the Atlas. So the Atlas is a little bit bigger than the Q7. But what happened was they had a gap, and that gap is right here. What matches to the Q3? The gap, and that's where the Taos gets rocked. And that's a really simplified, easy version, except there's some sprinkles of the Golf in this Taos. So voila, you have the Taos. It pretty much replaces the Golf in my opinion. It just has an SUV shape. It just basically camouflages itself like an SUV because that's what people want, but it's really a Golf. It's built on the Golf platform. It has almost the same engine as the Golf, except it's a little bit larger. It's the 1.5 instead of the 1.4. It is 6 inches longer, so it does have more space. It is easier to get in and out of. And yes, it looks like a baby Atlas, which has a really good shape. And you'll see that in our Subaru versus Atlas video. It has a really good design, because if you take another brand and you compare it side by side, you know what it looks like and you know what's better looking. And the other thing I like about this is it doesn't want to be off-roady. There's nothing off-road about it. It's completely on-road. The Kia Seltos is also like that. It's completely on-road, but some of its other competitors, like the Crosstrek and even the Jeep Compass, they have this off-road element to this. This is simply on-road, and it's cute. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how fast the Taos is.
Ready, set, go. Oh, you got a better launch than me. Woo!
Man, my knees hurt on that one. But I'm going to talk about the front. I'm going to talk about the side. I'm going to talk about the back. I'm also going to talk about Taos versus Taos. I'm also going to talk about the infotainment, and I'm going to take it for a drive and see how it rolls. So let's get into it. So on the front here is where it has the most impact. It's got this really bold front end. The styling is on point. I really like the way this front looks, and they've obviously done this illuminated front grille all the way through to bring these headlights to have this wrap around the front of the car. It makes it look that wide stance. And I do like the contrasting piano black front bumper. I'm not sure how beat up this is gonna be as it gets some wear on it, but it does look good in this car. Now this is pretty much a fully loaded Highline in Canada. You can get 3 different trims in Canada. You can get the Tread line, the Comfort line, and the Highline. In the US, you can get the S, the SE, and the SEL. Pretty straightforward stuff. But the style of this thing is really, really nice. I do like all this sort of maybe honeycomb looking feel over here. It does have a good presence. What do you guys think? Now these headlights are adaptive and obviously are fully LED standard. There's no option. You cannot get ones without LEDs. They're LEDs through and through. But man, this is so Atlas. There's nothing really Tiguan about it. This is very Atlas to me. One of the cool pieces about Volkswagen is I like how they hide all their radar sensors in the logo. They don't put it on the side here like some other brands, including Audi. Audi has the big, crazy, like radar box on the front of their bumper. Sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right, kind of nutso. Anyways, let's just go on the engine and check it out. See how much power there is with this 1.5 liter 4-banger. So as I mentioned, there is the 1.5 liter 4-cylinder that makes 158 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. Now you can get two different transmissions with this car. You can get a 7-speed DSG, which is what this one has, in an all-wheel drive, or you can get a front-wheel drive version with an 8-speed transmission. Now, powertrain is exactly the same in terms of horsepower and torque, but in terms of transmissions, yeah, you can get two choices based on front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So on the side here, it's pretty nice to see. Imagine this thing, it's lowered by 3 inches. How cool would this thing look? It does look really, really good. I do like the fact that Volkswagen still likes that clean lines. I like the dynamic line that pulls all the way through, or shoulder line. Oh, little tidbit, Volkswagen, that's kind of cool. Now it does have painted on this side. Now it's interesting though, because it does have only the keyless lock on the front, like when you walk up with the key in your hand. It's only got on the front, not on the back, which is similar to the Kia products. I would expect the Volkswagens to have it all the way around, but hey, can't be picky. This does have 19-inch wheels. You can get 18s as an option as well, but there's 19s on there. But the other cool part about it is they don't charge you for metallic paint, which probably sounds like crazy, like who charges for metallic paint today? But the Germans do. But there's no metallic charge on this. It's pick up metallic and it's at no charge. It's pretty small in here. It's not a big car. I can clearly, at 5'8.5", see over the roof, the panoramic roof, I must add, and these roof rails, and they're nice and steel. They're not plastic. We've had some cars in here that have plastic. So it's nice that it's aluminum or alloy. Whatever material it is, it's not plastic. So moving the back here, yes, this still does look like an Atlas in the back. It also does take regular fuel, does not need premium. And another thing I like to check with these cars at this price point is the inner fender liner. Are they plastic or are they carpeted? Now this is plastic in the front and carpet in the back. All right, so see how easy it is to get in and out? Just in and out, super easy, right? So let's move to the back here. And this is Audi-esque. Like this, the front, the back, it's a very, very good looking crossover. But this needs to be debadged. And that is because that stands for tobacco, alcohol, and other substances. We need to get rid of that, okay?
Okay.
So on the back here, these taillights are really nice. They call them IQ lights, but it's like you're pulling. Yes, beauty. Now on the back here, you will also see this overhang third brake light spoiler. Nice little touch. I just like the way this back end looks. And take a look at these fake exhaust tips. There's a lot of chrome here, so that will really probably deflect your eyes from noticing the fact that it doesn't have exhaust tips. But just a really, really nice back end. I just love nice back ends. But yeah, let's check the trunk space. So first thing I noticed is, yes, it doesn't have a power trunk. Most of its competitors do not have a power trunk either, but the first thing I do notice is how wide this rear sill of the bumper is. It makes it feel a lot bigger. It is fairly decent in size, but it definitely makes me feel like I'm in a bigger car because of the design cue. Now, that's a 60/40 with pass-through, but let's talk about, we've got 34 inches exactly as far as depth goes, and as far as width goes, we've got 41.5. So hopefully that helps you guys. Oh, you probably want to know height. Let me pull this typical Volkswagen rear parcel shelf down. Every Volkswagen on the planet has this, so let's talk about entrance here, and we've got just about 3 feet of entry point. Now it does have a nice third headrest there, you can see. So if the rear view mirror you're looking back, that third headrest, I like to push it all the way down so I have visibility all the way through. And yeah, let's jump inside. So in the back of the 2020 Taos, really funny. Talk to a lot of people and they say it's a Taos. Read the actual literature and talk to a lot of people with the ski resort. That's what this thing is named after. It's called a Taos. Now, 60/40, this is how it flows. I like the fact that it shows you if it's not down or not. It does have a two-tone interior in this specific one. Whew. Nice and solid. Typical German that you'd expect. And typical German you'd kind of expect at this price point is plastic, no leather. It's got the same look, two-tone look, as it does in the front, but the front does have a soft padding, and this one just has straight plastic. But it does have a few cool things, I will say. It does have the fact you have USB. It does also have 2 rear vents, which might sound crazy, but the fact that it has vents back here is a positive thing. It does obviously have a panoramic sunroof, so it doesn't feel claustrophobic in here. And the one thing it does give me is space. I don't feel cramped in here. I feel like there's a lot of space considering this is their smallest crossover SUV. Let's check out the front. So onto the front, I have this nice Taos sill that I don't have in the back. I have power seats, obviously. These are also vented seats, and yes, the two-tone is a little bit more obvious in this one because it's wide on the sides. Listen, that's so annoying, but it's solid. We've got some solid German feel, you know? Even at this price point, you got that solid German feel. Now, it doesn't feel small. It feels like a good size. Does it feel extra small? No. It definitely feels wider and a little bit more broad than the old generation or even the current generation Q3. Yeah, it's probably about the same as current generation Q3. It is not super tiny. Yes, there is a lot of plastic, but it's not piano black, so don't hate. It's gray. We've got gray plastic, not piano black, so it's not, the usual hate. It's like somewhere in the middle. But now they have a digital cockpit. So you have digital in the front and digital here. There is no analog, but there is analog HVAC gauges, which are the original ones that most people are used to. You've got dual climate control left and right. This also does have wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto through something they call App Connect. It does have wireless charging, 2 USB-Cs, and it does have 4 different driving modes that you can drive this thing in. On-road, off-road, snow, and off-road customizable. Now it does have the multifunction steering wheel that is leather wrapped, typical German stuff. It feels solid. Other aesthetic pieces are, I like the fact that it has this stitching all the way through. It's a nice touch and it has a sort of leathery feel there. But something new is this shift knob. It does have park, reverse, neutral, drive, sport, and then manual, but it's actually on the top, illuminated on the shift knob. It is not on the side like you normally see it, sort of hidden there, and it takes up space. This is right on the top. Kind of new, kind of different. Feels good. Nothing really to complain about. The only thing I would really complain about is this armrest. Germans, man, you were the ones that gave me the sliding armrest and you took it away. But from the tech side, it does have start and stop. It does have push button start and stop. And it also does have, this one does have adaptive cruise control. It does have keep you in your lane, but it doesn't have lane centering. And it does have a rear camera. And it does have rear cross traffic alert. But now let's dive into some of the digital stuff, like the digital cluster and the digital center console. So as far as the digital cockpit goes, you can have different views. I like the fact that it shows you this kind of stuff, acceleration, travel time. Classic is obviously going to be like the gear you're in and the speed you're driving. It looks really technologically advanced here. When I move over here, it also does carry that forward. It has the same sort of resolution display. Some have different values or different qualities, but this is pretty much identical. And I like that fact that you get consistency in what you're actually seeing. Now, other stuff it does have, let's talk about the ambient lighting. There's my ambient lighting right there, and there's all the colors you can slide over, and I do like the fact it's just not solid colors. It does give you a variation of mix of colors as I slide this sort of cursor along. So why the ambient lighting is kind of important in this specific case, because if you look at the surround around the tach and the speedometer, it actually changes color based on your ambient lighting. It's not just the colors outside, it's the color of the digital dash as well. Really, really nice touch. So if I go into red here, you see how this changes into red. Pretty cool. Now, obviously, I probably sound like a 5-year-old child, but in today's age, this is the stuff that gets people excited. So if you move in the nav here, I do have the nav set up here in my digital display. It really takes over the whole screen, which is nice to see. As far as resolution goes, it's not the best resolution. It is decent. I wouldn't say it's the best. Now, something I noticed is when I have the digital display on here, as far as the nav goes, I lose it on here. Now, I had it on here, but it went away when it moved here. So it kind of moves, toggles them back and forth. Maybe it realizes you don't need to have navigation on both screens. You can just have like your radio on this specific one, and on this specific one, you can have your nav screen. But underneath, you can see the quality of it. It's like the person that did the navigation screen was actually different than the person that did the other screens on it. Because if you look at the park and the speedometer, it's really, really clear. It just seems to lose its quality when it has the nav screen, or the nav map. Weird. Yeah, like the quality of the screen minus the nav is just very good quality. Anyways, enough of that. But the sound system, for those that want to know the sound system, I read a bunch of reviews that think the sound system isn't very good. Now this one does have Beats audio, and it's very bassy. It's good, it's loud, it's clean enough. I wouldn't say it's poor quality. I would say it's decent, maybe between decent and decent-ish quality, somewhere around there. I wouldn't say it's terrible. And this does have heated steering wheel if you cared about it. Now let's go for a drive. We're gonna take the Taos for a drive now, and yes, this feels very Volkswagen-like. It feels like these seats kind of hug me well. It's got a great steering wheel, I like it, but short wheelbase cars and corners is always a good time. So you can throw this thing around the corner on the throttle now. It's got the DSG, so it shifts fairly fast. It's about 80 kilometers an hour, and feels very typical German that I don't really feel that I'm driving that fast. Got really good visibility because I feel like I'm sitting on top of the car as opposed to the car swallowing me up, or SUV swallowing me up, or crossover, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's more like they don't really make a golf sport wagon anymore, but this is kind of like a golf sport wagon of sorts. It's fairly stable. It's not SUV-ish or anything, and it's, yeah, quiet. It is quiet. And does it have dual pane windows? No, it doesn't, but it's still pretty quiet. to me, this fits two types of buyers. One is like going to college and want to sit higher and something that feels safe, that's new. That's one type of buyer. The other type of buyer is someone that just wants a smaller type of car that kind of just gets you from A to B. It looks classy. It's got all the safety features in it for the most part. And it's got that like German feel and you know you're kind of saving money because there's a lot of plastic in here. So that's kind of the two buyers that I think is going to buy this. And there might be a third buyer in there somewhere that just likes simplicity because it's very simple. Are you the fourth buyer? Comment below. So here's kind of the differences between the Tiguan and the Taos, is that in base format, you get the option to get adaptive cruise control on the Taos, and you get push button start, and you get digital cluster. Whereas on the Tiguan, you have analog gauges, no push button start, and no adaptive cruise. So not that it's a big change of anything, but it just shows that of build times, when they build the vehicles, this is newer, this has more tech in it, this has more sort of standard features, this is more in the climate of the car sales business right now, whereas the Tiguan it doesn't have that, right? So you have sort of that newer feel in this. I mean, gray instead of piano black is obviously they're hearing the people complain about piano black, because there is some piano black here, but definitely not as much as it could have had. They put on the front bumper though. So because this is a smaller motor at a 1.5 liter and is turbocharged, like it creates at max boost pressure 25 pounds of boost. That's a ton of boost. So it does take some time to actually get that kind of pressure. So there is a little bit of lag. I wouldn't say it's instant. If you're in sport and you're in the right gear and you're on the throttle already, it's good, it's easy. But if you're off the throttle and you're on the throttle, there is a little bit of lag. Yeah, even with the 7-speed, there is still a little bit of lag. Now they put that in there just because they probably felt they need this transmission to sort of giddy up and go. Once it's going though, it's plenty. I don't think you're going to complain about it needing more power. Yeah, it could always use more power, but I think it's good enough. But it's to get to that point. It's just a little bit laggy. So it depends on your driving style and how you use the car. And I would have liked to see a 2-liter in here with a little more power? Yes, obviously, but probably there's some cost restraints there, or there's some fuel mileage restraints with the electric push, right? They're probably thinking, man, gas is going to go up. Want to save fuel? Yeah, it makes sense to put the smaller motor in. We know turbocharging well. Yeah, there's sometimes some issues there, but overall, we know it better than anybody else. So yeah, let's put this little motor in there, and we can sell it all over the world. We can run on the MQB platform, and let's roll. That's probably what they're thinking. Anyways, with all that said, I think it gives you a good overall package for a small, sort of compact SUV. If I was comparing this to the older Tiguan, which they did sell quite a few of, this is definitely better. There's no doubt. This is a better, older Tiguan, if that makes any sense. It's got all the tech you need. It's simple. It's got good visibility. It's easy to kind of toss around because it has that short wheelbase, which a lot of cars don't have nowadays, obviously, because they're all about size, right? So if you want that sort of short wheelbase, sits a little bit higher, more on-street use, got some good style on the outside, and not a Tiguan, the new generation Tiguan, well, here you go. The 2022 Taos. Catch you next time.